fact that...
Hello, everyone.
Hello, guys. Nice to meet you. Our topic is designing and building houses for the underprivileged. I will start, and then José will continue. Are you all seeing me? Okay.
Yes.
My name is Doni Šimunović. I'm a fifth-year architecture student, and my topic is designing houses for the homeless. I've been dealing with designing houses for the homeless for about a year and a half. It's not a topic a lot of people are concerned with. I did 3 projects. Each took about 4 to 5 months to develop. So basically, my story is, like most of you and most people out there, I never gave a second thought to homeless people. They are so easy to ignore, so easy to put aside. So I never thought a lot about it. But one time I was passing by the hallway of Architecture University, and I saw this project. It is called Less Homeless, and it was done by a student that is 2 years older than me. And I was completely blown away by this, because architects are very egotistical creatures, you see. And usually they make a huge Dubai tower and they say, look at me, aren't I the best architect out there? But this guy didn't do that. He was actually making architecture to help other people. And that was really impressive to me. So I kept it somewhere in my mind, but it wasn't an immediate effect. So 2 years later, when I was at 4th year of architecture, I had the good fortune of having Ivica Plavec as a professor. And he's a really charming guy. And he told me, Doni, architects should be like cowboys. You should shoot out a concept from your gun. So tell me, what do you want to be doing? And somehow that project I saw 2 years ago came up, and I said, I want to do housing for the homeless. I said, great, for the rest of the semester, that's all you'll be doing. I don't want to hear anything else. So me and my group, we were doing housing for the homeless. And starting to research housing for the homeless, I was shocked. Because homeless people don't have any money, and institutions dealing with homeless people also don't have any money. So architects don't really deal with this issue. So these light little houses, I know it looks cool. It's a very, very rich bureau, and maybe when you see it, you think it's a cool looking thing, but trust me, no one ever gave a lot of thought to the person that would be living here. They did this as a commercial. They wanted to have on their website this among everything, like look at how versatile our projects are. These little dreams, don't trust them. First of all, no city would ever sign up for having houses in the public property. Houses like this only exist for architecture exhibition or until the police take them away. And the other thing is they are only good if you consider a homeless person not a person. So if I told you I put a homeless guy in a 2 square meter house, you would call me a hero. But if I told you I put my grandma in a 2 square meter house, you would call me an animal. So why do we deserve more of a house than they? So I decided I'm not going to do my project like that. I'm going to do it the real way. So I went from social center to social center, writing down notes, asking questions about the homeless. I interviewed social workers that were working with the homeless. I led science papers. I did my best to make it a project for the homeless and not for the architects. And most importantly, I met Milan Merval, which is a great inspiration to me and a close personal friend of mine. And he really got me acquainted with the raw reality of being homeless. It's not what the architects act like it is. You know. So 4 months later, when we finished the project, it was a sociological structure. It was complicated. And we tried to adapt an old building to suit homeless people and give them a second chance. And my assignment in this last part was doing a model. So I told myself, you spent so many years ignoring homeless people. Now, when you have a chance, it was an exhibition of student works, you will make a model which no one can ignore. So this was my model. The reason I put this notice sign here is because I didn't, people would think that I put the lights to showcase the architecture. Like, look at us, look at how we adapted this building. But that's not what we wanted to do at all. We wanted to build a building that belonged to the homeless. And that didn't serve us. We wanted people to really notice the homeless and at least spend 10 minutes a day thinking about it, because no one really thinks about it, and people should. And this was donated to Mile's NGO as a gift at the end of the semester. When I presented this project to Mile, fortunately, he had a lot of kind words to say about it. But in the end, he told me, Doni, okay, I appreciate it, but it's much more realistic. I'll get an empty plot and maybe some prefabricated houses or something like this, because I tried with the city and they won't let me have an abandoned building. They just won't do it. So I said, okay, and I started doing a different project. It's called Assemble Me Houses. The main idea of this, it's too complicated to explain, so I just put a couple of pictures. But the main idea is that homeless people build houses with the volunteers. It's a very important difference. If someone gives you a house, if you build a house by yourself, because life doesn't really work that someone will give you a house. If you want a house, you'll have to take the wood, and you'll have to take the nails, and you'll have to put them together. So that's the message me and Mile wanted to convey to the homeless people receiving the houses. It also involved a lot of mechanisms to make it flexible, cheap, easy to assemble, blah, blah, blah. And hopefully the living conditions in this house will be something you would give to your mother or your sister or your grandma, and not just quote unquote good enough for homeless people. Me and Mile, we believed in this project a lot, and we tried setting up meetings, and we had great ambition with it. But then Corona came, and all that ambition was flushed down the toilet. So obviously me and Mile were sad, and we are still fighting for this. It's just been postponed. But on the other hand, a couple of months later, two people that are in a year before me at college called me, and they told me, were you the guy with the glowing bottle? And I said, yeah, well, we want to do some projects with the homeless too. Can you maybe give us some tips? And one of them developed this project. We are not happy with words and ideas and drawings. All we would be happy with is someone getting a roof over their heads. We are not there yet, but we have good intentions. We are ready to work, and it's a matter of time before we make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doni. Thank you so much for your presentation. Thank you so much for inviting me also. So far, I've been having an amazing experience hearing all of the speakers that were here today. So it's a tremendous honor to be here today. My name is Doni Cardoso. I am from Portugal, and I am an industrial engineering student. My path with volunteering started at a very young age when I was part of the Scouts here in Portugal. We had periodic volunteering initiatives, such as collecting food outside supermarkets in order to give it back to the Portuguese food bank. One summer also, and to give you some context, Portugal has a serious problem with forest fires. We were also in charge of preparing meals for the firefighters that were fighting a forest fire nearby my hometown. Later in life, when I entered university, I came across an organization which is called Just a Change. Just a Change mainly is targeted at university students, and what they do is that they offer companies team building activities in exchange for a sponsorship, and that sponsorship is at all times in the form of construction supplies. Those construction supplies are then used by the university student volunteers in order to recuperate, rebuild, and bring old buildings back to life. These buildings are mainly inhabited by people with a low economic status, elderly people, people who live in poor living conditions. The project that I mostly worked on was in an old building, a top floor of an apartment in central Lisbon. This was 3 years ago, and to put some context also, Lisbon had a touristic boom during that time, and a lot of legislation was passed in order to allow landlords to fill the houses in the most touristic parts of the city with tourists. What happens is that the central part of the city was inhabited mostly by elderly people, and these people were being pushed out of their houses in order to make way for tourists to stay there. This house, by the time so every week I would go to this house for an afternoon, me and a team of 4 or 5 other student volunteers, and we would do construction work. I learned a lot in that matter, from building a floor to installing windows. I learned a lot, but the biggest experience was to see the modesty and the gratitude of the old lady that inhabited the house towards us. The biggest gratification that we could possibly have was seeing how we particularly changed and improved that person's life. So my advice to anyone who is watching and who is trying to decide and to think if they should join a volunteering initiative, my advice is that when you find the initiative that captivates you the most, that grabs your attention the most, and that you think you can have the most impact in, join it, because the results and the gratification that you have from improving someone else's life is incredibly good. Thank you.